Good evening, I'm Ces Oreña-Drilon.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Shawn Yao.
The big stories tonight. All eyes on the Senate as it goes through changes in composition while preparing for a historic impeachment trial yet. Talks are louder too of a looming change in leadership.
The Court of Appeals overturns the acquittal of incoming party list representative Laila de Lima in one drug case. But her legal team says that this does not mean detention again for the former senator.
And former presidential spokesperson Attorney Harry Roque is now a fugitive after a Pampanga court ordered his arrest for alleged Pogo-related human trafficking.
Mas mataas ang level ng kahandaan ng Senado.
Will Ces Escudero still be Senate President in 2 months' time? That's not for certain, with a fresh batch of senators joining the 20th Congress, among them a former Senate President. Julie Baisa has tonight's big story.
The official list of senators who will replace the 12 graduating ones have yet to be announced, but there's already talk of a change in Senate leadership. According to upper chamber rules, the Senate President may continue in office while his term is in force. This will only change if someone presents a majority vote when the Senate session resumes. For now, Francis Escudero is still Senate President.
Katatapos lang ng eleksyon at bangayan at ingay, sisimulan niyo na naman agad. Sino man sa amin, kabilang si Senator Soto, ang may bilang, hindi niya dapat talikuran yung responsibilidad at yung hamon na yon na binibigay na kumpiyansa ng mayoriya ng mga senador sa taong yon.
Former Senate President Tito Soto himself earlier said that if 13 senators will push for his return to the post, he will accept it. But until that happens, Escudero says he wants to focus on the pending legislations. He does not want to think yet about the upcoming 20th Congress and the possibility of his replacement as Chief of the Upper Chamber. Escudero added that anyone from the 24-man Senate, not only Soto, could be Senate President should he or she have enough numbers to be elected. Once this comes to a vote, the result will then make up the Senate's majority and minority, and not from which side of the political fence they are from.
Majority means you voted for the winning Speaker or Senate President. Minority means you did not vote for him or voted for someone else, which is totally separate and distinct from being opposition or administration in relation to the sitting government.
Escudero, however, did not discount the possibility of a Marcos bloc and a Duterte bloc clashing in the coming Congress.
Sa pang-araw-araw na issue, mga panukalang batas na pag-uusapan namin, sa tingin at pananaw ko, hindi yan titingnan ng mga miyembro ng Senado bilang bahagi ng Duterte bloc, bilang bahagi ng Marcos bloc. Titingnan nila yan gamit ang kanilang karanasan, konsensya, at prinsipyo at paniniwala. Pero kapag ang issue ay tungkol sa Duterte at sa Marcos, marahil doon mo lang makikita yung linyang yan sa pagitan ng dalawang yon. Pero hindi lahat ng senador ay pwede mong bigyan ng tatak sa noo, ika nga, na Duterte yan, Marcos yan.
The 19th Congress will have 2 final weeks to pass pending legislations, among them the anti-Pogo bill. Of course, there's also the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. But as Escudero said before, this will be in the hands of senator judges who make up a portion, and a powerful one at that, of the 20th Congress.
Now that the new complexion of the Senate is clearer, one of its tasks becomes more evident as well, to get ready for the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. At least physical preparations are in full swing. Maroon robes for use of senator judges have been picked, but measurements of new Senate members will still have to be taken. There are already designated rooms for participants, from the prosecution and defense groups to the legal team of Vice President Sara Duterte. The Senate leadership is confident of an impartial trial, even if some of the impeachment judges are known allies of the Vice President.
Historically, hindi. Dahil nakita nyo naman siguro sa social media na nagbago-bago ng posisyon yung mga in-endorse dati, kinakalaban nila ngayon yung mga nag-endorse sa kanila dati. Hindi ko sinasabing hindi iiral, pero again, each to each his own. Nagbabago yan sa kada sitwasyon at sa kada tao.
The impeachment trial is expected to start in July or after President Bongbong Marcos delivers his 4th State of the Nation address. And the lower chamber is gearing up for trial 2. Incoming party list representatives Laila de Lima of Mamamayang Liberal and Chel Diokno of Akbayan have already accepted the offer to replace House prosecutors Loreto Acharon and Jill Bongalon. Acharon and Bongalon both lost in the recently concluded midterm elections. De Lima denies she accepted the job for personal gain.
I'm not the kind of person who does things out of personal vendetta or vindictiveness. It's all about really contributing to the attainment of justice and accountability. Ultimately, ang huhusga ay yung taong bayan. Pero kung magkamali ang Senado, magkamali ang majority ng mga senator sa pagpasya, either for acquittal or for conviction, ay ultimately mananagot sa taong bayan.
For his part, Attorney Chel Diokno said he is raring to hold someone accountable for questionable spending of confidential funds at the office of the Vice President. Recall that Diokno was part of the filing of the first impeachment complaint against Duterte in December of last year.
Ang gusto namin mangyari ay talagang ilabas ang katotohanan. At ito ang isang napakagandang pagkakataon na isa lang sa publiko kung ano nga ba ang nangyari at kung ganito ba ang hinahanap natin sa klaseng pamamahala.
We have a lot to unpack with our top stories tonight, and joining us now is political strategist Malu Tiquia. Good evening and welcome to the Big Story.
Hi, Ces. Hi, Shawn and Pauline, and good evening to all your televiewers.
All right, well, you got it right when you were with us at 8 a.m.?
Yes, and that created a lot of problems for me because some of the politicians were calling.
Well, anyway, let's go to the matter at hand, the impeachment trial. What is your reading? The numbers, the political numbers, look to be on the side of VP Sara, but you know, the public is the ultimate judge, the electorate.
That's right, Ces, no? And in between the judgment of the public, you saw two narratives being played. One by the office of the president, where the public, what do you call her? Attorney Claire said that it is not
What
to the
do you
interest
call
of the...
her? What do you
I'm
mean?
sorry.
Palace
she
press
said,
officer. There.
That one,
Yes.
because I'm not so used to that, because it used to be, well, never mind.
Yeah.
So she was saying that it is not to the interest of the president to have the impeachment. That was like a day after some of the 12 candidates were, you know, getting their votes, etc. And then all of a sudden, I think by the end of the day or near lunch, you saw the speaker making public the invitation made to Congresswoman De Lima and Congressman Diokno. So you see two narratives being played publicly that are going haywire to each other. So I don't know really what is the position of this administration, considering that he also said that the cabinet should work and should not give much attention to the impeachment. So my sense, the speaker is again playing with the levers of power, and you have, on the other hand, the Senate preparing for it. But the 19th Congress will just have 6 session days before its adjournment sine die. So tama yung sinabi ninyo, naghahanda sila ng susuotin na robe, ng conference room, etc., etc. But really, the actual convening of the impeachment court will happen just after the State of the Nation address.
Before going to air, Malu, we were just talking about how quick it went, no? Na biglang from we don't know if we're going to be asked to be part of the prosecution to yes, tumawag na si Speaker Romualdez by
Yes.
phone. Do you think this has something to do with the much bandied about, we've been talking about this, possible leadership shakeups at both the lower and upper chambers? What's your
Yes,
fearless forecast?
I agree with that. Both the current leaders will stay as current leaders until the end of the 19th Congress. When Congress convenes, both chambers will have to elect their leaders. I don't think the current speaker, will hold on to the power, and as much as possible, I think both of them would like to bargain their way to stay on power using the impeachment card. So at the House, the talk is Congressman Albe Benitez is being egged on, and of course Toby Tiangco. But right off, you saw Congressman Toby being interviewed today, and trying to respond to the issues being thrown at him because he was campaign manager of Alianza. At the Senate, right off, Tito Sen, Senator Soto, immediately said, if I have 13 votes, I will accept it. So you see movements, and the newest name being bantered around is Congressman Marcoleta. So you have, and there is Mig Subiri, the former Senate President, who still has a core. So when you look at the numbers, it would be interesting how these four individuals will play in the Senate, and how probably 3 or 4 will play in the House of Representatives.
But Malu, with the entry of now Congressman-elect Laila De Lima and Chel Diokno, do you think that would potentially change the dynamics of this impeachment trial? I mean, how influential could they be?
Well, that depends. We've seen in previous impeachment that it takes a while before the prosecutors from the House of Representatives get themselves together and agree on who's going to play what. Then there will be the private prosecutors. I understand the two congressmen who were not so lucky to gain a re-election seat is being entertained to be a part of the private prosecutor. I also understand that the prosecutors have already identified a spokesperson. So this is moving quite fast. Again, I go back. I think the impeachment card will determine who's going to be the leaders in both chambers.
But how will this change in leadership affect the impeachment trial, you think?
Oh, definitely it will have a change because if it's not going to be Speaker Martin who will remain Speaker, then the new Speaker will have to be given some leeway in putting together the prosecution team, no? Since it will be during his term, during his watch, when the impeachment court will convene. The same is true in the Senate. The Senate, I do agree with Senate President Escudero when he talked about majority and minority. And we have seen several impeachments previously, one with former President Erap, which didn't finish, and one with Supreme Court Chief Justice Rene Corona, which led to a charge that was not part of the original articles of impeachment. So there are so many moving parts as we, try to convene both chambers and end. And then, of course, there is also the president. I mean, if the president is really head of the party in government, he should rein in his people if he wants things moving forward in terms of programs, projects, and policies.
But circling back to that impeachment trial and the inclusion of 2 possible new House prosecutors, Malu, I'm not sure if you caught the post of former Congressman of Akbayan, Walden Bello, one of its founders earlier. He was actually cautioning against the possible inclusion of these 2, or for former Senator De Lima and Attorney Chel Diokno to join the team, because he says this will actually fraction what's next on the agenda, which is 2028. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with former Congressman Bello's reading of it. It's too early to jump immediately into the arena. You still have to, everyone right after Bam Aquino and Kiko Pangilinan ended up in the top 12, everyone in that camp we're talking about 2028. I think it is too early to be talking about that. Secondly, they do not come from the same political party.
Right.
Senator-elect Bam Aquino comes from his own party, and he really defined himself in this 2025 election cycle. Senator Kiko, I don't know if he filed as a Liberal Party. Certainly, Congresswoman De Lima, the ML is part of the Liberal Party. I don't know if the Liberal Party has a vote. That's why tama si Walden Bello kasi hindi mo pa alam who constitutes the minority and the majority in the House of Representatives. Who are the candidates for the Speaker? And then logically, those who will not win ends up to be minority. So this creates these moves of De Lima and Jokno show a lot of being newbies in the House of Representatives. We know the politics in the House of Representatives is defined by the numbers. So really, you still do not have your chairmanship, your committees. There's a lot of things that have to go through, but immediately they responded. I guess they tried to grab the limelight so that it is a sustaining effort to show to everyone that they are very active and that they're raring to join the fray and really to distinguish themselves from the so-called opposition. Now there's a debate on who is truly an opposition. No? So these things are, moving things.
Well, that's actually my question, Malu. Who do you think is the opposition now? You did say that this midterm election was quite wild. And leading up to 2028, how turbulent could it get all the more? And who is the opposition, in your opinion, right now?
Well, there are two ways of defining the opposition. One is by looking at the number of seats each party gained, or forming, bipartisan among those who were not elected in the leadership position. So this thing is quite difficult to predict at this time.
All right. Well, we thank you very much for joining us here on The Big Story. At sana hindi ka naman masyadong kuyugin ng mga political strategist Malutikia.
We're just going to take a quick break, but coming up on The Big Story, former Senator Laila De Lima faces a legal challenge in her acquittal. We find out what this could mean for her freedom and her new role as Congresswoman. When The Big Story returns, keep it here.
The Big Story is back with news of the Court of Appeals reversing former Senator Laila De Lima's acquittal in one of her drug cases. The CA's 8th Division nullified the decision of the Muntinlupa Regional Trial Court Branch 204 of Judge Abraham Joseph Alcantara. This is a win for the Office of the Solicitor General's petition for certiorari challenging the ruling to absolve De Lima. The appellate court said the Muntinlupa RTC based its decision only on former Bureau of Corrections officer Rafael Ragos's withdrawal of testimony. The CA noted Judge Alcantara failed to point out which particular testimonies Ragos withdrew and which elements of the case were not proven that affected facts raised by the prosecution. Recall that De Lima faced 3 cases over her alleged involvement in illegal drug trade at the New Bilibid prison when she was Justice Secretary. De Lima's legal team is ready to challenge the reversal.
Rest assured po na hindi po ito final and executory kasi po pwede pa po namin kami mag-file ng motion for reconsideration kung totoo or appeal sa Supreme Court. So ang ibig sabihin po, dahil hindi pa po final and executory ang reversal, hindi pwedeng makulong si Senator De Lima. Tinis niya nga ang 7 taon na mag-antay para sa tamang proseso at naniniwala siya ultimately lahat naman ito ay mababasura kasi ito naman ay mga basurang kaso talaga.
Now let's get some legal enlightenment from civil and criminal litigator Attorney DJ Jimenez. He's also known as a Pinoy street lawyer. Good evening to you, Attorney. Is this not double jeopardy?
Yeah, good evening, sir.
For the former secretary?
This is a very interesting case because ordinarily, when a person gets acquitted of an offense, double jeopardy would set in. But this is something that isn't new because there are very few cases wherein the Supreme Court would reverse even an acquittal if the prosecution has been deprived of its right to due process or there is grave abuse of discretion committed by the trial court. And I think without necessarily preempting whatever eventual decision of the Supreme Court on this will be, I think that was the direction of the Office of the Solicitor General, claiming that there was grave abuse of discretion. And so far, although this is, as correctly pointed out, this is not yet final. It could still be subject to a motion for reconsideration, and later on, this could be brought eventually to the Supreme Court.
Attorney DJ, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to be simplistic and not a lawyer here. Pero base dun sa explanation ng Court of Appeals, parang sloppy lang kasi yung decision eh. Kumbaga, it wasn't written down very specifically which parts of the testimony of Rafael Ragos were recanted, etc., etc. And therefore, hindi rin malinaw kung ano yung na-flip, no, dun sa mga sinabi. And dun sa mga charges. Am I right in understanding na parang it seems to be kind of procedural or in the way that it was written?
Well, actually, it is more than a procedure because no less than our Constitution requires that every decision must be based not only on facts but even the law. So, kailangan po ang decision ng bawat korte ay nililinaw. I think, I haven't read the entire decision, but just listening from reports, no, parang lumalabas na kulangan ang Court of Appeals doon sa naging hatol ng Regional Trial Court, no. Kaya lang beyond this kakulangan, ang magandang issue rito, yun nga, yung issue on double jeopardy was the prosecution really was deprived, no, of its right as well to merit a reversal. Kasi ang petition for certiorari, commonly referred to as certiorari, this is not a mere error in appreciation. Kailangan po ito very grievous yung nakomit ng lower court, talagang kahindik-hindik na dapat ibasura. Parang ganun. Kung mere error of appreciation lang or error of law, generally hindi po naglalay ang petition for certiorari. But as I said, at the end of the day, we have to hold our horses, wait until the Supreme Court would eventually rule on this legal issue po.
But Attorney, walk us through what will happen here. Is there a possibility that former Senator Laila De Lima could be detained again? And what does this mean for her mandate as a congressman-elect of a ML party list?
I don't think this would have any impact on her function as a member of the House of Representatives. Kasi this would still be assailed and eventually it will have to reach the Supreme Court and hindi natin alam eventually kung anong sasabihin. At if the offense, in theory, if the charge is a non-bailable offense, then in theory, of course, marirevert back siya dun sa prior situation bago nagkaroon ng decision. But as I said, we cannot preempt at this time at saka sub judice po ito So we have to really wait until our courts would, we have to trust the system.
But what are the options, Attorney?
We have a working court. What are the options of De Lima?
Yes.
Now Congressman-elect De Lima? Well, of course, she can, her lawyer knows best siguro, no? And definitely magmo-motion for reconsideration po yan sila. And if they don't get the desired result, then of course, Supreme Court, which is the final arbiter.
Okay, so for now, babalik saan? Sa appellate court? Sa regional trial court?
Hindi pa po. Kasi po, ito po hindi pa final. Pwede pa po silang mag-file ng motion for reconsideration at titignan kung sasabihin ng mga justices na, may katwiran yung basis ng kanilang motion for reconsideration. Then the decision that reversed the acquittal can go back to the acquittal.
Okay. So MR sa Court of Appeals ang immediate response.
Yes. MR in the Court of Appeals.
All right, Attorney Jimenez, maraming salamat for your enlightenment on the law.
Salamat din po.
Now, in other news, a Pampanga court has issued an arrest warrant against former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque. The judge has also ordered the arrest of Cassandra Ong and 9 others. The court found probable cause to charge the said individuals under the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act of 2003. Recall that the Justice Department had filed qualified human trafficking cases against Roque for his alleged involvement with the raided Pogo hub Lucky South 99. Prosecutors alleged Roque was not just a lawyer of the Pogo, but also acted as its representative. Roque left the Philippines in September 2024 after being cited in contempt for not attending House hearings. He is now seeking asylum in the Netherlands. In a social media post, Attorney Roque says he will continue to fight the cases lodged against him.
Gagawin ko po ang lahat ng remedyo sang-ayon po sa ating batas para mapawalang bisa itong impormasyon labang sa akin for qualified trafficking. At inuulit ko po wala po akong kahit sinong recruit at wala pong kahit anong ebidensyong sabwatan at ang tanging dinidiin nila laban sa akin ay yung pagiging abogado ko, pagpa-follow up, pagsisiguro na ang operasyon ng umuupa sa kumpanyang aking kliyente ay legal.
Hey, we're gonna hit pause on all these legal stories and think sustainable construction that's both good for people and the planet. We will introduce to you a company that builds homes that exist with nature. When the big story returns, keep it here.
Thank you for staying with us here on The Big Story. Did you know the construction sector is one of the world's largest emitter of greenhouse gases? At least that's a program. Their study found that the construction sector is responsible for 37% of global emissions in 2022, highlighting the urgent need for a more sustainable approach to building. Here we champion innovative solutions that aim Today, we put the spotlight on the next generation of innovators. She's on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list, a Tatler Gen T future leader, a certified Verde professional, and she's changing the face of construction in the Philippines. Welcome to The Big Story, Sara Sanjani, CEO and founder of Kubo Modular, the country's #1 prefab tiny house.
Thank you for having me. Yes, it's long.
Tiny house talaga?
Tiny house. So you don't.
What's the tiniest?
Tiniest right now is at 15 square meters. That starts at 599,000 for the house kit. Yeah.
No hidden charges?
So of course it depends on the location. So the farther it is, we're built with many islands. So the harder it is to get to. But it's at minimal cost comparing it to traditional construction where you have to ship multiple trucks just to fulfill one house. As compared to us, it's, everything is in one go.
But Sara, how did it all begin? What inspired you to do modular houses?
Okay, so me personally, I was experienced with the construction industry, like coming fresh out of college. I was exposed to it, and I noticed how traditional it's always been. So it's one thing is it's male-led. So I love having women
You have a
engage this
lot of women
conversation.
in your company, no?
Yes.
How many percent?
Our management is actually majority women. But of course, our workforce in terms of the skills and the carpenters and all the other skill sets, of course, are mostly men. So maybe in the future.
So what inspired you was to change the way things are done?
Definitely. So
Traditionally.
it was also my previous co-founder who also was inspired by the traditional bahay kubo. So the bahay kubo is actually one of the first modular or prefab units because the artisans build it off-site and then they get, of course, the raw materials and then they bring it into their whether that's their own workshop, and then they deliver it by component to the location. So it's taking the same concept and doing off-site construction and delivering it assembled. And of course, the concept of bayanihan, where you
carry the whole thing.
Yes, you carry the whole thing, or you actually get the whole community involved to put together one home for one family.
So how does this system reduce the impact on the environment compared to the traditional way of just building on-site, hollow blocks, etc.?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So for on-site construction, which is what we normally do with concrete and steel, one major difference is when you deliver everything in the project site, you're not necessarily sure if 100% of your materials will be used. So about 30% is actually waste because it's off-site, it's on-site where you build it. And you're also volatile to risks in terms of like the weather. So for example, ngayon is tag-ulan. So you're not also sure if your project will continue. As compared to modular, where we build everything in a controlled facility here in Quezon City, and then we assemble it by component and deliver it to the site. So minimal changes. So for example, for one home, like one standard home would take about 6 to 12 months to build on-site. But for us, it takes us about 1 to 3 months with the wait time. But on-site, it takes about 2 weeks to
And
deliver.
they look so beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Maybe we can show some of your
Yes.
samples
sure.
over here.
So this is our bestseller. This is our sarangani. So syempre, pag Pinoy, maraming kasama sa bahay. So nandyan si Lola, si Lolo, and then you have your parents and then your kids. So there's a place for everyone, even if we consider it a tiny house.
So this is a model of the largest.
That's actually just our standard, like sarangani, but our biggest is 95 square meters. So not so tiny anymore.
So how big is the standard sarangani in real life? Of course, I'm holding it in the palm of my
So
hand.
in real life, that can actually go to 64 square meters with the loft. So 2 lofts and the deck outside. So
Ang ganda.
Ang ganda.
Magkano yan?
May pergola pa sa likod.
so that one starts at 2.1 million already. Pero syempre, we can do monthly payments with your bank partners.
You have bank partners.
Yes, definitely.
So they can, you can finance it
loan.
yours.
Yes. So since we're considered home construction, since we're materials, so we're a manufacturer of these materials. So you can take out a home construction loan, whether it's with our bank partners or your financer of choice. You can pay monthly, I believe up to 20 or 30 years.
Well, Sarah, you did start this during the pandemic, right? So it's been about 4 or 5 years.
Definitely.
How many units have you sold already?
We're actually nationwide, so we're in about 26 provinces. So that means that our product is truly scalable. Because if you're starting out like as a contractor, it's very difficult, most especially if your client is in an island somewhere. So we've delivered from Ilocos Norte to Mindoro, Palawan, Antique up to South Cotabato.
Can I ask about, I noticed, I went through your Facebook page and you have offices, you have gazebos, viewing decks in sports arenas. So a lot of uses, right? But how do the materials hold up in the harsh, I mean, alam mo naman yung panahon dito, init, ulan, lamig, and then salt water kung nasa may bandang beach, which you also have.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in terms of the materials, that's why we like to mix different kinds of materials. But one major material is, of course, our engineered bamboo because it's the most renewable material. And then, of course, we still mix it with the traditional construction materials, but we kind of customize it to become adaptable to the prefab method or method of construction. So in terms of the durability, definitely we've developed like not even every year, siguro every month, we're always trying to do something new, to always improve. And most especially, yung important dyan is customer feedback. So no one is perfect, definitely, but we're definitely in a path to continue development and improvement.
So you have concrete slabs that you bring to site? Are there any concrete slabs in any of your wala?
It would still depend on the homeowner if the foundation that they want is a slab, but we normally just suggest the wall footing or column footing, like a traditional bahay kubo.
Bahay kubo talaga.
So it's elevated. So there are many reasons why our bahay kubo at least is elevated, because syempre kung may
Kung may baha.
floods, yes, so that's another thing. But it's actually more for practicality reasons for us, because we need the bottom to install, like the plumbing and everything. So, traditional pa rin tayo.
Does it follow then na madali siyang i-repair? Kunyari may tumulo kasi nakaangat na yung bahay on stilts or slabs or poste.
Mas ano, no?
Mahangin.
Exactly. So, some people, they would even elevate it to make it a second floor para magamit rin yung first level as parking, as dirty kitchen, even storage or an extra room. So, others naman taniman. So, it depends on the homeowner. Kaya maganda.
And you use a lot of local materials. No?
Yeah.
How many % is local and how many is imported? What's the mix?
I would say it would be varied. So, we do get a lot of locally manufactured because it's customized. So, for one example is our roofing, because we use long span and we use different kinds of connections, etc. We customize that, and that means it has to be locally manufactured. For the other things, definitely it's still imported, but we still buy it from local suppliers as well. I don't have the
I see a swimming pool in a house. Is that I know it's a render.
Yeah, you can look.
Sorry.
It's the first time we're
I'm the one looking at it.
Yeah.
We're all getting used to
behind
it.
you are all these beautiful pictures.
Okay.
Can you put a swimming pool in?
Of course, you can do anything you want because we're just giving a blank canvas. So it's your home. Like whatever you want to do, most especially after we deliver, before we deliver, it's up to you. Because we're just building the building blocks, no? So if you want to turn it into, let's say, a school, you can. If you want to turn it into a cafe, you can. It's not necessarily limited to a home. It's the structure itself that makes it like with one system, limitless yung possibilities.
Let me go back to you were saying a lot is wasted if you do the traditional way of construction. What about in your case? What do you do with your waste materials, with your excess?
So we actually repurpose it. We also have our line which is called Kawayan, Kawayan Architectural Products. So this is where we also sell our bamboo materials as well as our other materials like furniture. We've made knife boxes. We've made other kinds of furniture.
From excess.
From excess. So actually a lot of the furniture in our homes are made out of cutouts for the house structure. So it's always repurposed, but definitely not 100%. So we're looking into ways that we could make it even more circular.
Well, Sara, given how expensive home ownership is now in the Philippines, would you say you're also solving that problem for Filipinos?
Of course. So the vision of Kubo is really to solve the affordable housing crisis. No, syempre there would be others who would say, "No, oh, it's still cheaper to buy a house and not by this developer." Or so it's still a learning curve for us, most especially that we're a startup. So we're trying to understand how we can bring down the cost so that at the end of the day, the homeowner can afford it. That's why we're working with more, and we're looking for more financing partners to eventually break it down, because we don't want to cut the cost and then cut the quality and then say, I've built a cheap house that you can afford. We want to make sure it's dignified and that people can live within it and they can be proud of it.
Ito yung smallest.
No, this is...
Hindi pa yan ang smallest?
No,
mas maliit pa dyan?
the smallest one can actually fit in the studio. So I was looking at it a while ago and it can definitely fit.
Next time, when we have you guests, bring a house.
We'll be doing the show inside.
Yeah,
How many square meters is the tiniest? No, just to give us hope that maybe we can also have our own house one
Definitely.
day.
So our 15 square meter, which is our Sulu model, it's actually showing right now. We have a pop-up in White Plains, Quezon City until June 15. So we actually bring it around with our pickup, our Kubo pickup. We bring it around Metro Manila, and hopefully soon we'll bring it outside to nearby cities as well.
And that's, you said, 500,000?
599 for the house kit, and then the delivery and installation will depend on the location.
And if you buy two, may discount?
Yes, of course. Lalo na sa'yo. Of course. So if you buy two, it's less 90,000. So that's already a big discount.
Pwede mo nang pagdikitin na lang.
Yes. So yung maganda is when you like one certain product, and because let's say you want to spend how many millions for a big house, why don't you have, let's say, one for your public space, one for your private space? Or usually we have OFWs. So OFWs, syempre, when they come home, they want to have a place that doesn't necessarily have to be so big, no? Kasi they're just gonna stay there for a few days or weeks. So they have one for themselves and then the rest is for their family. So it can be mixed and matched.
Or pwedeng parentahan, or...
Yes, while they're not there, diba? Can be.
What about customization? I saw your site and sabi pwede daw, and you guys can work. But just how far-reaching, let's say, sobrang imaginative ng client, how far can you go with a prefab kind of modular setup?
Definitely. So for us, we've actually made like a menu. It's like you're selecting in a restaurant. So that's what one of our clients said yesterday na, you guys made it so easy for me to choose because we believe it's a home. So it shouldn't look like it was made in a factory, diba? So it should still look like it's yours and it was made really for your family and your personal taste. So we have a set of options in terms of like color, materials where you can choose from. But if you're still not satisfied with that level of customization, we can also do a custom design service. So if you, I don't know if you saw some photos, yeah, we definitely customize. Most especially, we have accessibility customizations as well. Wheelchair accessible, elderly accessibility. So that one is all available.
And how quick is the lead time?
For us right now, if you order it 1 to 3 months, that's how fast it is. But actual installation, for example, this Sarangani only takes us 2 weeks to install. Comparing that to traditional construction na 6 months to 12 months, you know, you're still waiting for your house.
Or not even longer than that.
Even longer. So, yun, correct.
What's the future looking like? What are your plans?
So the future's, I think, very interesting because we're looking, you know, we started as a company that wanted to build better homes. But right now, we feel that we're at a scale to build better communities. So we're working with developers such as SMDS Realty, which is based in Pililla, Rizal, where about 20 hectares of their development, we are now offering house and lot options for potential customers. So yeah.
And if I'm modern and I want it to be a smart home, I want to put solar panels up there, a cistern, can you add all of these features as well?
So we actually have preset add-ons as well. So that's part of our menu of options.
Tapos makikita mo how much na lang.
Yes, exactly.
Like pwedeng yung lights can be controlled from
yun yung smart.
Remote.
We realize that the market sometimes is not so, they're not yet in that level. We actually offered before, but we phased it out because we had a lot of elderly. So they were like, I don't want
Baka
anything.
you're just ahead of your time.
Yeah, so we even had like, you know, different kinds of features, but definitely what the market wants, that's how we also adapt. So again, what I mentioned is we give the canvas and then it's up to you how you want. You want to put wallpaper, you want to put pink walls, it's up to you because we're just giving the blank canvas.
And how about pag may bagyo? I mean, some people might think, nako, prefab, baka lipa rin ng bagyo, or you know, there's that kind of thing.
Meron na ba nalipad ng bagyo?
Definitely not. So if you notice, last year, we had how many typhoons in the span of 1 month? And that was actually our prime location in Cubo. So that was in the Cavite area, Batangas area. We have a number of Cubos there. We called our homeowners. There was also a 6.5 magnitude earthquake. Yeah. And we had one customer, senior citizen, no, who was living in the location where the epicenter was. And we called her up right after. Yes, we called her up right after. We said, hi, what happened? Are you okay? She said, I was completely happy by my balcony while my relatives in Makati were freaking out because of the building like swaying. But me, I was completely safe and I felt completely.
Kasi light materials are actually good eh.
Yeah.
We like, parang we don't feel safe kung hindi parang
yung katok.
concrete.
Yes. So yun lang yung siguro perception that we're also trying to change na porket kinatok mo and it's not concrete, it's not safe. So for us, it's up to 250 km/h winds. So that's very strong. And in terms of the longevity, we also give 15-year structural warranty.
Wait, may isa pang misconception na baka sobrang init kasi hindi siya buhos. Di ba may ganung conception din kasi? So what can you say?
Yeah. For bamboo, it's actually a natural insulator. It's 14 degrees colder inside a kubo as compared
to outside. Bamboo is the best material.
14 degrees?
Because of bamboo. So it can also, syempre, again, depending on the location per no? So we also offer mga added insulation for depending on the use.
But let me get back to the 40%, almost 40% contribution of greenhouse gases by the construction industry. How much have you lessened? Do you have a figure because of your processes, what you do?
Definitely. So because we're using, actually, I'm just going to talk about the materials. So I'm not even going to talk about what we've saved because of doing off-site construction. But because we've used bamboo, we've saved about 200 tons or sequestered 200 tons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And that's just sequestering. That's not even talking about the carbon dioxide we would have emitted if we used traditional construction. So just by building,
tons.
yes, 200 tons of carbon dioxide, estimate.
Just by using bamboo as your main material.
Yes.
And then I see also is bakal, or those like
The black ones, that's actually bamboo as well.
No, these ones right now, like there's like a...
the cladding.
Yeah, the cladding.
So the cladding, of course, as I mentioned, like we mix materials based on customer feedback and the durability. So we have a team of engineers and designers.
Wait, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I wanted to see kung yun yung small, ayun na, nagbago na.
Nagbago na. Visit us na lang in White Plains. We're also going to be in the Sustainability Solutions Exchange by Saitem DTI in World Trade. Yeah, World Trade.
Sorry, did I interrupt your answer?
No, I
wanted
lost my thought.
Where is the White Plains one? So in case people want to go,
Yes, invite everyone.
I'm curious. I want to see it.
So you're all welcome to visit our pop-up in White Plains, Quezon City. That's for our Sulu model. But honestly, it's with a pickup. We'll be going around Metro Manila.
Teka, ang laki ng White Plains. Saan doon?
White Plains Avenue.
Along the main avenue.
Yeah, so it's by the restaurant, and you'll just you'll know
By
it's
the
us
restaurant.
You'll know
Is it near the Halo-Halo place with the giant gravel parking lot? That's what I was thinking. Dun lang yata siya.
Or you can visit us in the Sustainability Solutions Exchange as well in
Which
World
is
Trade. November 22 to November 24. May 22.
What? November pa?
Sorry, May 22 to May 20.
You achieve all this and being only, how old are you? How young are you?
Age reveal.
Sorry. Your young age.
Oh, she was 30 under 30.
So it's my last year.
29.
I'm 29 years
Wala
old.
pa siyang 30.
So syempre, I learned it from my family, what else? From my friends, and syempre mga people who paved the way before us. So women in construction, ano pa ba? Everyone. Like, I'm really just inspired
So
to build
your background, your family is into construction.
Yes,
Is that how
construction
you got
materials.
into that?
Yeah.
So don't you argue with your parents like, no, my way is better?
I know. I mean, I think it's always about finding what will improve the industry in general. So I'm not necessarily competing with anyone. I'm not saying that, oh, all concrete is bad and we must change the way we build. I think it's just a matter of there's a demand for housing and there's a housing shortage, not just in the Philippines, but in the whole world. So how are we going to solve that? We can't use yesterday's solution for tomorrow's problem. Right?
That was
Very
so
well
well
said.
said.
So well said. I was going to ask for your parting shot, but that will have to be it. Thank you so much, Sara Sanjani, CEO and founder of Kubo Modular.
Now, here's an update on Bilang Pilipino 2025. The National Board of Canvassers has released its preliminary canvass report on the partial and official results of the 2025 midterm elections. The NBOC said some countries have not been able to transmit their certificates of canvass on time because of internet issues. These include Iran, Poland, and Russia, where there are internet restrictions. In Lisbon, Portugal, Pretoria, South Africa, and Islamabad, Pakistan, the COMELEC had to hold special canvassing sessions because the laptops for transmission were held by customs in those areas.
Lalabas po sila dun sa host country na may internet restriction, pupunta sa pinakamalapit na Philippine Embassy or Consulate Office na outside of the border nang sa gayon makapag-transmit.
Kung iyan lang ay hindi ganun ang sitwasyon sa mga bansang yon, walang problema. Especially kapag security nila ang issue.
Out of 175 COCs, COMELEC finished canvassing 159 on the first 2 days of counting. This has been the fastest by far in the history of Philippine elections. The COMELEC says it is still on track to proclaim the winning senators on Saturday and then the winning party list groups by Monday. But it could be earlier depending on the pace of canvassing. On that note, COMELEC also said it has fixed discrepancies found by the Parish Pastoral Council for Responsible Voting on the counts it received on actual voters and ballots cast. PPCRV specified a precinct in Zamboanga City where only 768 out of 992 registered voters actually voted, but the system said the number of ballots cast reached 919.
properly discussed na po yan with VP Sara. Wala po nagbago sa boto eh. Hindi naman po nagbago ang boto. Nagkaroon lang ng correction doon sa item na yon sa programming. Pero it does not change the votes.
And as our parting shot, here is some irony at its finest. Our big picture tonight is a conversation on power that was literally dimly lit. The Department of Energy held a media conference earlier today to assure the public of stable and secure power supply provided during the recently concluded midterm elections. Midway through the briefing, though, a 10-minute power outage happened, and they continued the presser in the dark, literally, until electricity was restored. Energy Secretary Rafael Lotilla later said the incident was localized to the building, and the media's equipment could have caused a power demand surge. According to Meralco, they found a busted fuse at the building and are working with the Energy Department to identify the cause.
It's the media's fault.
It is. All our stuff that we plug in, though, the lights take up so much power. We should find a sustainable way around this.
Remember what Vince Perez said at one point in time, he was the Prince of Darkness when he was Energy Secretary. I hope that doesn't apply to Secretary Lotilla.
He might have just gotten the crowd. But anyway, good to know that it was localized and that power did not actually go out during that crucial midterm election. On that note, that's it for the big story on this Thursday evening.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thank you for watching. Have a good night.